Welcome to Across the Pitch. I'm still trying to process everything that happened yesterday. We've got a Milan derby comeback that'll be talked about for decades, a Forrest fairy tale that's getting more incredible by the week, and some Real Madrid wonder kids who've got me feeling ancient. Buckle up, folks, because this is going to be one wild ride. Let me take you to Riyadh, where we witnessed something truly special in the Supercoppa Italiana. You know those matches that completely flip the script? The ones where you think you know exactly what's happening and then football just laughs in your face? That was this derby in a nutshell. Picture this. Inter are absolutely cruising, playing the kind of football that's had them dominating Serie A. Lautaro Martinez does what Lautaro does best, finding that pocket of space just before halftime, cutting inside Thiaw like he wasn't even there, and drilling it through Theo's legs. Classic Lautaro. That's his fourth Supercoppa goal, by the way, matching Dybala's record. The Inter fans in Riyadh were in full voice, waving their flags, singing about a fourth straight Supercoppa, the first team to ever do it. And then, bang, 46 seconds into the second half. Taremi makes it 2-0 with this absolutely gorgeous first touch and finish. At this point, everyone's thinking game over, right? Inter looking for their fourth straight Supercoppa, everything going to plan. Oh, how wrong we were. Here's where it gets interesting, folks. Conceição, who, mind you, has been in the Milan job for about 5 minutes, makes what might be the ballsiest call of his career. And let's talk about how he even got here, because this Milan story is wild. The Fonseca experiment clearly wasn't working. The players looked lost, the tactics were muddled, and that famous Milan pressing style had completely disappeared. You could see it in their body language. No confidence, no direction. Redbird knew they had to make a change, and fast. Their whole project is built on this blend of youth and experience, but under Fonseca, it just wasn't clicking. Enter Conceição, a manager who knows Serie A from his playing days, understands the weight of the Milan shirt, and most importantly, knows how to light a fire under his players. His first big call? Throwing on Rafael Leao, not fully fit, probably shouldn't even be on the bench, but desperate times call for desperate measures. And my word, what an impact. The entire dynamic of the game shifts instantly. You've got this Portuguese wizard suddenly popping up everywhere, Inter's defense looking like they've forgotten how to mark, and the momentum swing is absolutely electric. The first goal? Pure class. Leao draws the foul, and Theo Hernandez, remember, this is a left back we're talking about, steps up and curls one that had Sommer beaten before he even moved. The stadium just erupts. The Milan end goes absolutely berserk. Flags waving, flares going off, even the neutral Saudi fans getting caught up in the moment. But here's what's fascinating about this Milan team under Conceição. They've got this newfound resilience. Let me break down what's changed tactically. The pressing is more coordinated, the defensive line is higher, and most importantly, the transitions are lightning quick. You can see it in how they press, how they transition. It's like watching a completely different side from the one that struggled under Fonseca. Pulisic's equalizer? That's all about the system. The way they worked that ball, the movement off the ball. That's not just talent, that's proper coaching. And speaking of coaching, when's the last time you saw a team look this transformed after just 2 games under a new manager? First, they take down Juve, and now this? The winner, though? 93rd minute, the whole of Milan holding its breath, and Leao, who's basically playing on one leg at this point, produces this moment of pure magic. The way he picked out Abraham, the timing of the run, the finish. Poetry in motion. You should have seen Conceição after the game, strutting around with this massive cigar like he's just won the lottery. And you know what? He kind of has. This wasn't just a trophy. It was Milan's 50th major honor, their first under Redbird ownership, and what a statement for Jerry Cardinale's vision. He's been talking about bringing Milan back to the top through smart investment and youth development, and suddenly you can see it all coming together. But let's talk about what this means going forward, because this could be season-defining stuff. Inter have now lost just 3 games all season, but 2 of them, both to Milan. There's something psychological there that Inzaghi needs to address. And that's not even mentioning their late game issues. 10 of their 19 goals conceded have come after the 80th minute. That's not coincidence. That's a pattern. When you dig into the numbers, it gets even more interesting. Their pressing intensity drops by 30% in the final 15 minutes of games. For Milan, though, sitting 8th in Serie A but with games in hand, this could be the spark they needed. The way Conceição has them playing, the confidence flowing through the team, don't be shocked if they make a serious push for Champions League spots. And speaking of Champions League pushes, grab your popcorn, folks, because what's happening in Nottingham right now is absolutely mind-blowing. Nuno Espirito Santo's Forest side just rocked up to Molineux and put on a masterclass. Now, let's put this in perspective. We're talking about a team that barely escaped relegation last season, had a 4-point deduction, and now they're sitting 3rd in the Premier League. Not 5th, not 4th, 3rd. Level on points with Arsenal, just 6 behind Liverpool, and playing the kind of football that has opposition managers tearing their hair out. The symbolism of this latest win is just perfect. 50 years to the day since Brian Clough took charge of Forest. And let's talk about parallels, because they're uncanny. Clough took a middling 2nd division side and turned them into champions in 3 years. The way Forest are playing right now, it's giving me serious Leicester 2016 vibes. Remember how everyone kept waiting for Leicester to slip up, kept saying it couldn't last? Well, Forest are actually 4 points better off than Leicester were at this stage of their miracle season. Morgan Gibbs-White, returning to his old stomping ground, opens the scoring right in front of England's new gaffer Thomas Tuchel. Now that's timing. And speaking of Tuchel, his presence wasn't just about Gibbs-White. He's got decisions to make ahead of the World Cup qualifiers in March, and Forest have given him plenty to think about. There's a real English core developing at Forest. The way they've recruited this season has been nothing short of brilliant. Their summer business looked chaotic on paper, but look how it's all clicking now. Hudson-Odoi looking like the player Chelsea always thought he could be. Elanga transformed from United benchwarmer to Premier League star. And Chris Wood? The guy everyone wrote off as a panic buy is now leading the line like a veteran striker. But it's not just about the goals. It's how they're doing it. Their defensive organization is something else entirely. 9 clean sheets in 20 games? That's more than any other team in the league. Mats Sells in goal was pulling off saves that defied physics. There was one from Strand Larsen that I'm still trying to figure out. And when you look at their remaining fixtures, it gets even more interesting. They've already played most of the top 6 away from home, and we all know what the city ground's like these days. A proper fortress, just like in the glory days. The numbers behind this Forest revival are absolutely staggering. They've already won 12 games this season, 3 more than during the whole of last campaign. And here's a stat that'll blow your mind. Of the 70 teams to have earned 40-plus points from their first 20 games in Premier League history, only 4 have failed to finish in the top 4. That's not me being optimistic. That's cold, hard data. Jamie Carragher went all in after the match, saying if they beat Liverpool next week, they're genuinely in the title race. And you know what? Even Nuno's attempts to play it cool, saying he won't look at the table until the end of the season, can't hide what's happening here. You want to talk about tactical evolution? Watch how Forest transition from defense to attack. The way Chris Wood's holding up play, 12 goals already this season, by the way, creating space for runners like Gibbs-White and Elanga. The defensive solidity that's making them the meanest team in the league. And the atmosphere at the City Ground? Electric doesn't even begin to describe it. We're talking about a place that hasn't seen Champions League football since 1995, and suddenly it's a very real possibility. The whole city's buzzing, and with Liverpool coming to town next week, that's going to be absolute box office. And just when you thought yesterday couldn't get any better, Real Madrid decided to give us a glimpse into the future. And folks, the future is blindingly bright. The Copa del Rey might not usually get pulses racing, but when you've got teenagers playing like seasoned pros, you sit up and take notice. And this isn't just any youth movement. This is La Fabrica at its finest. We're talking about the academy that gave us Raul, Casillas, Guti. And now it looks like they've struck gold again. Arda Güler, remember this name. Write it down if you have to. Put on an absolute masterclass. And let's talk about Madrid's strategy here, because it's fascinating. While Barcelona were making headlines with Gavi and Lamine Yamal, Madrid are also quietly assembling football's most exciting youth team. Güler, Endrick, Vinicius, Rodrigo, none of them over 23, all of them capable of moments that make you question physics. Two goals that had the Cartagonova crowd gasping, but it wasn't just about the goals. The way this kid moves, his awareness, his decision making. He's 18, going on 30. Carlo Ancelotti's basically running football's most exclusive finishing school out there. And here's what makes it special. It's not just about throwing young players on the pitch and hoping for the best. There's a clear progression plan. Valverde opened the scoring with a volley that defied physics. Camavinga headed home a second, and then the Güler show begins. His first goal? Pure brilliance. But what's really exciting for Madrid fans is seeing the next generation getting their chance. Lorenzo, Diego Aguado, Chema, all making their first-team debuts, all looking like they've been there for years. This isn't just about winning the Copa, it's about building a dynasty. When you look at Madrid's transfer strategy over the last few years, it all makes sense. They're not just buying young talent, they're buying the right young talent. Players who fit their system, who understand the weight of that white shirt, who can learn from the best while bringing their own fresh energy. 5-0 might look routine on paper, but this wasn't just about the scoreline. This was about the future of one of football's greatest institutions taking shape right in front of our eyes. The perfect blend of youth and experience. You've got Modric conducting the orchestra 1 minute, Güler stealing the show the next. World champions, La Liga leaders, and now they're making cup competitions look like training sessions? The rest of Spain should be very, very worried. That's all for today's roundup, folks. And honestly, I need a lie down after all that. From comeback kings in Saudi to Forrest fairy tales in England and wonder kids in Spain, this is exactly why we love this beautiful game. I don't know about you, but I can't wait to see that Forest-Liverpool clash. Something tells me we're in for another treat. This is Across the Pitch, still trying to catch my breath. Over and out.